We're going to do something a little bit different with the sermon this morning. You should all have a song sheet in your bulletins. There are 3 songs by a group called Coldplay, and I'm going to adapt this morning's gospel lesson to our contemporary situation. It has been said, do we live by vision or do we live by circumstance? Do we live by vision or do we live by circumstance? All 3 of the people that are engaged in the text this morning are doing the right thing. They are all practicing Torah. The priest and the Levite are practicing Torah, and the Samaritan is practicing Torah. You may remember that Jesus' engagement with the woman at the well in the conversation about Torah. The Samaritans look at Torah and interpret Torah a little bit differently than conservative Jews do, being priests or Levites. So I want to begin by saying they are all engaged in the interpretation of Torah. And in our contemporary situation, most of us are engaged in the interpretation of Torah through our Constitution. So we are at the very moment that Jesus is engaged with in his own situation. And perhaps there is something we can learn from this text. I'm going to give you a contemporary situation that challenges our thinking about what law is and how do we engage in law. So if you will turn your song sheet to the song Trouble in Town, we're going to listen to a contemporary version of that discussion.
Sister can't wear her crown. There's trouble in town. Blood on the beat. Oh my goodness, there's blood on the beat. Law at the jungle of the law of the street. There's blood on the beat. And I get no shelter, and I get no peace, and I never get relief. Trouble in town, because they hung Brother Brown, because their system just keep it down. There's trouble in town. And I get no shelter, and I get no peace, and I just get more. And I get no comfort, and I get no name. Everything is getting strange.
That's Brent. Who's that? What's his name?
Caroline.
Is that X your middle name?
Cool, that's a motor vehicle idea.
You getting smart because you'll be in the car with him, smart ass. I'm asking you what the X is. Is that your middle name?
Of course, what is it?
Don't come back with the what is it. Talk to these kids on the street that way. You ain't talking to me that way. Please don't come to Philadelphia strangers. Everybody's a surfer lawyer. They all know Jack. Grab you up, I'll grab you any way I got to.
You're not protecting me if I stop me here one time to the bush.
Why don't you shut up?
So in Galilee, there's a person who can get no shelter and get no peace. He's just getting more policed, whether it's the rabbis or the Pharisees, Herod's guard, or the Roman soldiers. He gets no comfort, he gets no name. Everything is seeming very strange. And so there is a moral and social revolution that is beginning to form in Galilee, moving through Samaria into Judea. All who have very clear marked boundaries practice Torah in very clear and separate ways from each other. Is it possible that a new way of understanding Torah can be birthed? Brian McLaren, who is a prolific writer about where we face the crisis of the church in our contemporary situation, has written a new book entitled Do I Stay Christian? A Guide for Doubters, the Disappointed, and the Disillusioned. I'm sure many of us sitting here this morning can identify with one of those categories as we struggle with what it means to be a practicing Christian. And in part, he says, religion must get out of the pews and become a movement for the moral, intellectual spirituality that can help us become the people that God has created us to be. Who is that person that God has created us to be? I invite you to turn to the second song, an exploration of who you and I are called to be. So there's this DJ that's shown up in Galilee, in Nazareth, in the temple, in the synagogue. He's also come to Capernaum, shown up there. He's playing a new tune. He's breaking out of what Torah had been understood to mean prior to his existence and inviting a new community to practice Torah in a new way. Before, his disciples said, I was dying. I feel it inside, and now I'm flying. I know, Jesus. We're only called to be human. I know, Jesus. How we are designed now. You've taught me. We're only human. But we're capable of kindness. We're capable of kindness. That's why we are called humankind. John Lewis, in his battle with the civil rights movement and other isms that we confront, challenged people to think about what we see and the opening Trouble in Town. Are we aware where the trouble in town is in Asbury Park, in Neptune? Are we willing to go where the trouble in town is? When you see something that is not right, John says, you must say something. You must do something. Democracy is not a state. It is an act. And each generation must do its part to help build what we will now call the beloved community. A nation and a world society at peace with itself. Amos throws out the plumb line of judgment. Violence will breed violence. So if you continue to perpetuate violence, Jeroboam, you're going to die by the sword. That is what happens. The psalmist invites us to see that God is not just our God. We are not just the exceptional people. God is God of all the nations, of all the peoples. And so when we set up boundaries the way Galilee and Samaria and Judea set up their boundaries, and we live under political oppression, whether it's Roman or Herodian, we need to confront that. Jesus created a movement to confront that, to challenge that, to go back to the original Torah, to go back to Leviticus and say, what are we called to be? To love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our mind, and with all our soul. And to love our neighbor as ourselves. To love our neighbor as ourselves. And of course, the person who comes saying, I've completed Torah. I've completed my confirmation class. I'm in. And Jesus says, go and be with your neighbor. Practice being a neighbor to one another. That will take down boundaries. That will take down borders. That will require a new vision. That's what Jesus is up to. Are we going to live by a new vision or just by the circumstances that we have inherited? I close with a song, When I Need a Friend.